Lovely. Yes. Yeah. Who all is here? Very nice. Wonderful. Awesome. Your sound is fine. Oh, Sita is here. Sita was telling me that the reruns are getting boring. When are the classes really starting? So, here we are. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That we start with this prayer itself is a clue to this topic today. And what is the topic?
The one who comes.
The doubting one, what happens to that? Vinaśyati. Yeah, Nash dhatu is a very powerful dhatu. Yeah, Nash means to destroy. Vinaśyati, when you add V to Nash, V plus Nash means definitely, especially. So the, what perishes, we have to see. We are not talking of the person perishing. The doubting one. What is that one? So the one is a upalakshana or a indicator for the place where the doubt resides. Where does the doubt reside? In the toes? In the nose? Where? In the mind. In the mind means what? Antakaranam. In the Antakarana, the doubt resides. Aiye. So the doubting one perishes means the doubt, where the doubt resides, that mind perishes. Perishes means, not that they have dementia and they can't recall anything. In fact, that would be a blessing, really. But perishes means is no longer available for the purpose for which it was made. What was the mind? What is the antakarna there for? Everybody thought we'll just come nicely and sit and listen to the talk. Do some work. Show me some signs of life.
To make itself available.
That is the purpose of the mind, especially human mind. As we have seen so many times in Viveka Chudamani. Now we are having Viveka Chudamani 2.0 and round 2, right? So where it says Durlabham, very difficult it is. What? Trayam eva etat. Trayam etat Durlabham. 3 things are Durlabha. Durlabha means difficult to gain. Dukhena labhyam Durlabham. Difficult to gain. So, what is difficult to gain? Human body. Vinaśyatvam. 3 things are difficult to gain. We always talk of M&M, that's only 2 M's. Here we have 3 M. M and M and M. Yeah. New kind of chocolate. And so, 3 things are difficult to gain. One is the human birth, because the human birth is meant for seeking this freedom. And the seeking of the freedom, as we'll see later on, is because of the commitment to knowledge. And the knowledge is what frees. Ignorance binds. Knowledge frees. And frees from what? Frees from the freeze of samsara. Yeah. Samsara is a total freeze. Everybody is in a statue position. Can't move. Oh my God, if I do this, something bad will happen. If I look here, something suddenly horrible will happen. So I have to just be, that game children play, statue. So permanent statue. And one thinks that by becoming a permanent statue, you can escape karma. No. Karma prahara. Prahara means the beatings of karma don't stop. Whether you are statued in or statued out. No. So, this whole thing is very important to know, is that the human birth with the particular gift of this mind, which is analytical, which is able to make inferences at a very highly evolved state, and even cows and dogs and cats make inferences. If you tell the dog sit, it will expect a treat. Inference. Because that's how it was trained. It will first look at your hand, and if the hand is empty, it will not sit. It's clever. But if the hand is, something is there, even though it may not be able to see it or quite yet smell it, it thinks, okay, closed fist means something kuch hai udhar, something is there. And so then it will sit. Cow also makes inference. And, what kind of an inference the cow makes? If you go with a big stick running into the cow shed, it will all, go in the back. But if you go with if you are a trinapani means a hand. If you are with the hand that feeds, feeding hand. So you go with a bowl of feed or with some grass in your hand, and what happens? And the cow will come closer to you. So they also make inferences, but the human inference is much more evolved, because the cows, dogs, cats don't have the ability to make the inference what is good for them ultimately and to seek this knowledge. They are not free enough, and they don't even need this knowledge because they are not free enough to judge themselves or others. So here the human mind is both a blessing and not a blessing simultaneously, if we don't know how to use it. And we saw that in the opening verse of the Amrita Bindu Upanishad. Manaha eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. So it is a karanam, it is a cause for bandha. Bandha means what? Bondage. Same root, English and Sanskrit. Bandha, bondage, and moksha, freedom. The same mind can ensnare you, and the same mind can be used for what? Freedom. And so therefore the first M, Manuśyatvam, to be born endowed with a mind that is capable of knowing something is wrong in the large scheme of things, that I have been frozen in time, so to speak. And who said samsara is not infinite? It appears infinite. Yeah. And for the one without this knowledge, it is indeed the only infinity that one will ever know. Infinite birth, infinite deaths, infinite samsara. But that's not the kind of infinity we are in pursuit of. In fact, we want to shake off that infinity because we have a different idea of infinity. Even the one who has not even attended V for Vedanta class, they know that there is something there that I am deserving of. Something there that I cannot reach. To ask a lay person, they may say it's happiness. They may say it's forever. They may say I want some, peace of mind. They may say I want freedom from something or the other. They all know. Everybody knows. If you have a human mind, you know that something is not right. Even the one who's never attended, M for moksha, V for Vedanta, ABC of Vedanta, A for Atma, B for Bandha, or B for Brahman, why be negative all the time? C for Chit, D for Dharma, like this you can, keep going. And so even the person who is not schooled in all this knows that something is missing. And to make up for that lack, the activity spreads far and wide. So that missing thing, in that desire to gain that missing thing, is the second M of these three M's, mumukshutvam. Mukshu is not a special kind of a shoe you can buy. Yeah. Mukshu is the one who is describes the person who is desirous of freedom. The one who is endowed with a desire of freedom is a mumukshu. So when you say mumuksha, it's the desire for freedom. Mumukshu, the one who is endowed with a desire for freedom. So this, mumukshutvam, when you add the tvam there, that means it makes it into an abstract noun, mumukshuhood, mumukshu-ness. Mumuksha-ness, mumukshahood, and so the status of being someone who is desiring freedom, that's not a big deal. Like I said, it's universal. But to know that is the second M. So that is durlabha. Instead of keeping on going, the same way and meeting dead end upon dead end, that leaves this jaded, faded jiva, at the crossroads of many dead ends. And so it's a dead-end jiva, dead-ended jiva, dead-end jiva. Dead-end to the possibility of moksha, dead-end to the possibility that there might be this freedom. So we're not talking of that kind of a person who is apathetic and who has given up and who keeps on going through the motions and somehow thinking that, okay, somehow I have to get through this life. No, we're talking of someone who says and who is aware immediately that after a few lifetimes, immediately means we are very generous. After a few lifetimes, is aware that something is wrong in this scheme of things, and I have to do something different because what I'm doing seems to exacerbate this problem of feeling bound and infinitely producing and reproducing the finite. That is the problem. I'm infinitely reproducing the finite. And numerous finites don't the infinite make. Okay? Yeah. So many finites don't make it infinite. Finite plus finite, doubly finite, finite plus finite plus finite, triply finite, you get the idea. So therefore, that person who knows that is a mumukshu, really. And that is very difficult to gain, because we saw that in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita also. The statistics are very, very, jaw-dropping. And Manushyanam Sahasreshu, among thousands of people, Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye, one, looks for this absolute siddhi. Absolute siddhi means freedom from all, siddhi means success, not the relative success, the ultimate success of knowing that I don't need to be successful. That's the success. Very few, one person out of 1,000, 1 in 1,000 seeks this freedom, and then out of the seekers of freedom, one alone knows me, Bhagavan says, as the truth of themselves. Yatatam api siddhanam. So let's put 1,000 seekers who are seeking in the right way. One knows me. Very, grim statistics. And so therefore it is durlabha, And what is the third M? And knowing that I can't do this on my own, I need help. And that help is put in Sanskrit very eloquently, Mahapurusha Saṃśayātma. Saṃśayātma means taking refuge in Mahapurusha. Who is a Mahapurusha? Someone who has been there and done that for several lifetimes, we don't know. Doesn't matter, but now they are in a position to guide others. So the Mahapurusha is not the one who has been, who has dropped from the sky, and a self-proclaimed leader of sorts. I'm going to be there and I'm going to, take you forward and I'm going to do this and follow me, that not that kind of a Mahapurusha. And then if you ask that kind of a Mahapurusha, how did you gain this knowledge? Oh, it all just came, Apne aap means by itself it came. So these apne aap people, Pujya Swamiji would always say to them, keep the knowledge with yourself and enjoy it, don't give it to me, because this is not, what we want. We don't want this apne aap, DIY Vedanta doesn't exist. We don't want that. So the Vedanta is best enjoyed, vintage, yes. it's vintage Vedanta in the sense that it's ancient and it's been given, from him to her, to him to her, to him to her, to him to her. And so the parampara is there, The student learns and learns and learns and learns, until they are able to communicate and until they are able to take this forward and then teach. And then that student learns and learns and learns, And I'm keeping on saying learns and learns because we know that it takes a long time. It takes a certain amount of committed exposure, not a long time, but a certain amount of committed exposure, committed in underlined and bold, but not strike through. And, committed exposure, it means in order to overcome the topic of Sunday, habitual patterns. So that committed exposure, the one who has had and is able to have gained some mastery over the habitual patterns, is the one who is qualified to teach. And so that person is called Mahapurusha, the one who has, remained like a gulab jamun in the vat of sugar syrup. When the gulab jamun comes out from the hot fire of samsara, fried, fried, literally and figuratively, then what happens? Then, you try to bite into that. Horrible. It's not a sweet dish to talk of. Not at all. So we want, and then, so that's why from the hot, fires of samsara, from the hot oil of samsara, it is conveyed because of purva punya into a saffrony, cardamom sugar syrup of knowledge. Yeah. That is the vidya, that is the guru, that is the shraddha, which we are going to talk about. And it has to sit there. And in the beginning, the oil will not let it absorb anything. So that's why you can't dunk it in for 5 minutes and then, eat it. It has to sit there. Sometimes overnight, sometimes, it has to sit there for some, that's what we mean by committed soaking. Until you can't distinguish it between the gulab jamun and the sugar syrup outside. Equally, both are sweet. That is what is called paripakvata, being ripe in this knowledge. And it cannot happen without the Mahapurusha's help. So these three things are very crucial to the seeker of knowledge. And so that's why the human mind is used, to gain these, three M's. Of course, Manushyattvam, we don't have a say over, Only in this life we can perhaps pack for the next life, and because in this life, if you have tibra ichha, a strong desire for Vedanta, the next life will definitely be a human life. So that you can do. But the other two are in our hands. The mumukshutvam, deciding that something, discriminating and deciding that something is terribly wrong. And then Mahapurusha Saṃśayātma, doing something about it. Saṃśayātma, that's why it's not just Ashraya, it is Saṃśayātma. Saṃśayātma means a committed time with the knowledge, with the teachings, with the teacher. And that, it's not something that can just happen. You cannot be what is called in Sanskrit kadachit kaha. Kadachit kaha means kabhi kabhi, a drop in Vedantin. It sounds nice, it rhymes, drop in Vedantin. It's okay, it's fine. But the drop in Vedantin has to drop the, the whole concept of dalliance. And that is the topic for today. So the dalliance sounds wonderful, It sounds nice to be able to drop in once in a while and then go away before things get difficult. And things don't really get difficult. Actually, we make it difficult, as these verses that we are going to address. And we make it difficult for ourselves because we have to grow in what is called commitment. Tatparata. So that is the topic for today. It's so many topics after this introduction. So the topics for today is this commitment, this readiness to put ourselves into the sugar syrup and stay there, not jump out, not be a rebellious jamoon and jump out. Can't, it's too sweet, and so how to stay there and what to do and what happens when we don't stay there is beautifully and very eloquently described by Bhagavan in towards the end of the 4th chapter. So first, we have a typical way in the Shastra of giving two scenarios. I think the expression on the one hand and on the other hand came from the Upanishad itself, using that. So these two scenarios are given and the choice is yours. One is what kind of a choice? Because if you hear the two scenarios, you don't want the mind. What's the other one? So what are the scenarios that are given? Nice scenario. It's the positive. First, the positive one is given, and it's Shraddhava labhate what? Jnana. Everybody should know this expression. Shraddhavan means the one endowed with Shraddha, labhate gains what? Jnanam. Jnanam means what? These are the nice moments in the life of the Vedanta teacher. Jnanam means knowledge. Wonderful. What kind of knowledge? Atma. Jnanam always means Atma Jnana. Because any other kind of jnanam will only take you this far. And it is the infinite pursuit. It comes under the category of the infinite pursuit of the finite. So, which means samsara. So Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. Jnanam means self-knowledge is gained by the one who has Shraddha. So this is a very oft quoted and a very famous and a very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which has made life easy for a number of mumukshus and jignasus. Jignasu means the pursuers of knowledge. And how has it made life easy for us? Because all we need is Shraddha. Yeah. Sanskrit, don't say forget it, but it can come later. And what about titiksha? What is titiksha? Yeah, not going like this. When. Titiksha is developing the skin of the armadillo. Armadillo, what is armadillo? It is I have seen one up close. They used to visit the Georgia ashram. Did they come when you were there? No, you were not. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so you also haven't seen. Yeah, so in the Georgia ashram they used to come visit, and just bands of shields, and they need those bands because they can't see very well. So you can go up close before it gets scared and run away. Because it won't get scared, it cannot see you. Yeah. And so they need that protection. And so Shraddha is that protection because Shraddha means, it's not a belief per se, but it's more a trust to say, I'm willing to try this. Trust to have an open mind, a trust to be ready to be led, a trust to say, all right, I'm going forward with this, and trust pending the understanding that there is something to understand, and if this person, namely the Mahapurusha, the teacher, the guide, the guru, has understood this, I can also understand this. So that is what is called Shraddha. Shraddhavan, the one that is endowed with this Shraddha, gains this knowledge. Labhate jnanam. So this is a very big thing. So then what about other Viveka, Vairagya, what else is there? Come on, rattle off the rest of it. Viveka, discrimination, Vairagya, letting go of all the ends that are dead ends, and then the six pack, which is a resolved mind called what? Shama, and the ability to have a say over the organs of actions called. Why should you only translate and I give the Sanskrit? You give the Sanskrit. Yeah, called Dhamma, and then the ability to stay with it, Titiksha, and the ability to let go, Uparati, and then the ability to trust, Shraddha. Shraddha is part of this six pack, see? And the focus, not looking here, there, Samadhanam, and then finally, Mumukshutvam, correct? Yeah, and so these are all the qualifications for the one who is seeking the self-knowledge. Out of this, Shraddha has a special place right on top of this tier, because Shraddha is like a master key. When you gain that, everything else comes off its own accord. This is what the promise of the Shastra, the Upanishad is. Upanishad also says this, Shraddhaya Ashraddham Stara. Cross the doubt through Shraddha. So, but this is crazy. How to cross the doubt with trust? Already I am having doubt. What is doubt? Absence of trust. So, how to cross the doubt with trust, with the bridge of trust? How do I, when I cannot muster trust, how can I cross the doubt? I am a doubter. I am a very proud doubter, one can say. And I have not a whit of Shraddha. So, how can I manufacture Shraddha and then cross the doubt? How is that even possible? That is possible because your nature is Shraddha. Everybody's middle name is Shraddha. Yeah. No, if it isn't, it has to be. No. Everybody's middle name is Shraddha. And you don't have to go very far except to look at one's own childhood. Anybody that picks up the baby will go. That is Shraddha. It trusts, okay. And, and then, you can pick it up, you can take it from place to place, whatever it will go. It will go with the caregivers. No matter how dysfunctional they are, it will still have Shraddha. And that Shraddha has to be cultivated again, not cultivated as though cultivated, because it is there somewhere. It's not that the Shraddha has to be cultivated, Shraddha is there, it has to be recalled. It has to be recalled. And, it has to be recalled. It's like that fellow who ate a lot of spicy things. He shouldn't have eaten. Hot pakoras, hot dipping sauces, and all kinds of, chili things. And then he had a pot of ice cream, to wash it down, correct? And then, of course, he had burning sensation in the chest, not naturally, because all those spicy things. And then he kept saying, come on, where are you, ice cream? Come on, ice cream, please come and cool off this, because I ate you too. Why is only the hot things talking? So this cultivation of Shraddha is like that. The ice cream was eaten first. It's sitting somewhere. And that Shraddha was lost. Why was it lost? Because of dysfunctional caregivers. Because this is part of the growth of the human being, is to be disappointed. If you are not disappointed, you are not a human being. Disappointed, dejected, that is how one has to grow up. Otherwise, you can't just grow up all, starry-eyed, bushy-tailed, jumping around like a permanent Easter bunny. You can't do that. It's not realistic. What is realistic, on the empirical level of the reality, is that, there is a what's it called, a connection here between between the growth of the person, the growth of the antakarana, the mind, and the loss of Shraddha. You don't become a human being without losing Shraddha. In the beginning, everyone has Shraddha. Everyone is like that baby, very trusting. Oh, you want to beat me up? Sure. You want to beat me up again? Sure. After a while, wait a minute, what's happening? I'm not here to be beaten up. I'm going to withdraw. That's a defense mechanism. I'm going to, go to my happy place. Another defense mechanism, meaning nothing is happening. I'm in my own la-la land. And that's another coping mechanism. Sometimes the coping mechanism is just a moping mechanism. You sit and mope, and sometimes it is, all of the above, and sometimes it is new ways of, losing Shraddha and the manifestation of that in the person's life. So by the time one is an adult, you don't trust anybody. Yeah. That's why you look at the youngsters now. I see so many youngsters, they're refusing to get married. Marriage means Shraddha. Commitment. They don't want that. They don't want that at all. Nobody wants to get married. Oh no. I'm fine as I am. We'll date, fine, we'll live together, but what is this marriage? We don't want that. We don't want that commitment. It's very frightening because there is a direct relationship between the whole life's trajectory. And so now we understand the meaning of the word Shraddhavan Labhate Jnanam. So this Shraddha has to be recalled because before all those spicy experiences, it was there. Just like that fellow says, come on, ice cream, where are you? Take care of this acidity. So similarly, these acid experiences of just growing up and being constantly disappointed by life, by karma, by Bhagavan even. You ask for something and the neighbor gets it. And the neighbor says, oh, I don't know why I got it. I didn't even want it. And that, puts the salt in the wound. Even though they don't want it, they get it. And this seems to be the kind of, the niyati, if there is an order. We keep talking of Bhagavan's order. If there is an order in the life, it is this, that whatever I don't want, I get, and whatever I want, the neighbor gets. This is the law. This is the order. Murphy's law reigns. What is Murphy's law? If anything can go wrong in my life, I have added that. It certainly will. It is Murphy. And so, therefore, we have to see this, that this Shraddha, is the child already had it. One is born with complete trust. That is a natural state of being. And to lose that trust, all it takes is for the young mother to drop the baby. It happens. This baby weighs 13 pounds at birth, and why won't she drop it? She'll drop it. And that it landed on its head rather than, it's its own karma. So it happens. It really, really happens. And in Florida, we have that Dr. Soman. And whenever he sees people, he's an expert in seeing the pulse of the person and knowing whether you have been dropped in childhood or not. Whether you've been dropped in childhood or not, he can tell from the pulse. And he has surprised so many people because, oh, did your mother drop you in childhood? And the person will say no. And then afterwards, yeah, that makes sense. One of them did drop me. Either mother, father, somebody definitely must have dropped me. And then, then in one case, they went and asked their mother, and the mother said, yes, I didn't tell you, but yeah, this happened. Dropped you down a flight of stairs. And, you were only 9 months old. So you see. So that is enough for the Shraddha to go forever, even though the child may be smiling, because of course it's dependent upon the parents to give it something, and so it may be smiling, but inside it has developed a wall. And then, then the child goes to school, more Shraddha, because more Shraddha gets dropped, because all the friends it trusts, will abandon it, and everything all the teachers that it trusts will have no time for it. And like this, the Shraddha has dropped. And even before school, let's not forget there are siblings, who pull the hair and who snatch the toys. Shraddha drops. And then you go to middle school, Shraddha drops. You go to college, high school, Shraddha definitely drops even more if anything was remaining at this time. And then you go to what? College. If you go to college, Shraddha drops even further. And then all you need to do, if there is a last remnant of Shraddha to drop, you have to get married. Then it will definitely, the scales will fall from the eyes. What did I think you were? And what did you turn out to be? Shraddha drops. And then, if there is anything left, then when the children come, the Shraddha drops even more. You came out of me, how could you be like this? How could we have given birth to something like this? This Shraddha drops further. And if you have a job, Shraddha drops. If you don't have a job, then the Shraddha drops even more. And then, all these things. If you have a social life, Shraddha drops. If you don't have a social life, Shraddha drops. The droppage of Shraddha, you don't need to write a PhD thesis on it. It's a universal experience. And, Shraddha here means trust. So now that trust has to be rebuilt. Reboot this Shraddha by how? How do we rebuild this Shraddha? We rebuild this Shraddha by focusing on that which is worthy of that trust. Because all the things that we banked on gave way, correct? Everything we thought was a bridge, everything we thought we could rely on gave way. Starting with the parent, who perhaps was the inspiration behind the expression things that go bump in the night. Thing meaning baby, drop. Right? So, starting with that, starting with the caregivers, and up till now, all the things that we banked on, in babyhood, in childhood, in youthhood, in young adulthood, in adulthood, old agehood, whatever. Everything that we banked on was what? Was not worthy of banking on. Why? Because in itself it was finite. The parent was tired. And the child may have been kicking the parent. Yeah, that is not apparent. But, what is apparent is that the parent dropped the child. That is what is apparent. And so, we don't know what was going on. The parent is fallible and the siblings fallible, and then, the school, high school fallible, and all the things that make up those experiences, all the agents behind those experiences, what? Fallible. And then high school fallible, college fallible, a married person, the significant other fallible, and infallibly fallible, and then what? And then everything I have banked on is what? Is finite and fallible. So then if I rekindle this trust from the standpoint of again focusing on the fallible, it's going to be just more of the same. That's not Shraddhavan. That is Mudha. Mudha means without discrimination. A deluded fellow. So now the building has to be done from the standpoint of the infallible. Is there such a thing called the infallible? If so, where is it? So the infallible is really ultimately you. No, but I make lots of mistakes. Don't tell me I'm infallible and get a swollen head. It's not you in the body, mind, sense complex. It's that Brahman which powers the body, mind, sense complex, which powers that, which is that consciousness which powers the force of the universe that has landed us in this hot water in the first place. The hot water of distrust, the hot water of samsara, And so, therefore, The trust has to be placed in the infallible. And here what is infallible in this, is Ishvara, and Ishvara in the form Bhagavan. Bhagavan in the form of the Guru Parampara. That last M, Mahapurusha Saṃśayātma. So that's where the trust is placed, is rediscovered and consciously placed. And I love Vedanta for this reason. It's all up to you. It's not a magic feather that the teacher can bop you with. And then suddenly, because of the feather, eagle feather, vulture feather, what is the other one? Peacock, Krishna, peacock feather, this feather, that feather, that is all very powerful. Maybe it can help, but it cannot replace. It can help you to wake up, And that's why it's called Shakti path, the falling of Shakti and the opening of something. It's like a physicalized, it's a physicalized version of what is already happening in presence of the teacher. But it cannot replace the work that one has to do. And so the Shraddha has to be gained by placing first, which is a very beautiful, very, no-brainer way, very beautiful. Shraddha has to be gained by daring to trust Bhagavan, again. And Bhagavan in the form of that infallible, which cannot disappoint me. That is the daring one has to do, to regain this Shraddha. So, step number 1, all the distrust, mistrust, fears, everybody that has let me down, I take the bundle of grievances to the altar that is infallible. That's why it's called altar, because it has the power to alter this distrust. That's why it's altar. So altar is infallible, because because at this placing the grievances at this altar, all these limited grievances, they become spiritualized. We have to spiritualize, Ishvarize those grievances. And when you Ishvarize those grievances, you see that there is a law behind all this. That has nothing to do with you. And what is that? The law of karma. It is there. So that I went boink, boink, boink when I was 9 months old down the flight of stairs is not the fault of the father and the mother. Some karma. We don't know what. We don't have to go into it and saying, which baby did I drop in my last life? Why was it's not so literal. Bhagavan is very creative and has a sense of humor also. Yeah. Once I was leading a satsang, and there was some, I forgot what even it was, and it was some kind of what is that? Some 2 choices were there, and I didn't know which one to take. Which one to do? Should we do this or should we do that? And I asked the people assembled, and they also did not care either way. And I said, one of them must be the correct one. And I think this is the correct one. But I was not having enough confidence in myself. And so I said, I wish Bhagavan would just, tap me on the head and tell me. I said this out loud, to the people assembled. And then somebody wanted something from the fridge. And they said, we cannot open the fridge. Can you help us open the fridge or the freezer? They wanted something because they were, putting something out with the food and everything. And then, people brought things for potluck afterwards. And so one of the things that people had brought and kept it on the fridge was a 5-gallon bottle of apple juice. Thankfully, it was in a plastic container. I never thought I would celebrate plastics till this moment. So, I said, the freezer, I don't know, maybe stuck. Let us open it. So I opened it, but it was too close to the edge of the thing, and the whole thing just went boink on my head. So, Bhagavan is infinitely creative. Yeah, I said, tap me on the head, and it was a 5-gallon tap. Yeah, you learn like that. And so if there is any doubt, all the doubts vanished. I hope nobody is thinking, now we know why she's like this. So this is what it is. You have to be able to take, one has to be able to take the grievances and allow them to rest there. That is the feet of the Lord is the cemetery, the burial ground of grudges and grievances. You're allowed to have headstones for each of them. No problem. This one is, rankling, this is that. You can have headstones, but you bury. Yeah, you can visit them sometimes, but they are no longer alive, and they no longer have the power to come and, even on Halloween, they don't come back. That is the power of this altar. Because how am I able to bury these grievances once and for all? Because I see the larger picture here in the form of another order of Bhagavan, which is not a mandate of Bhagavan, which is a manifestation of Bhagavan, which is what? My own karma, which is a law, the law of karma, infallible. And that infallible I have to be okay with. And then, when those old grudges and grievances, starting with when the mother did not, give me food, or when the mother dropped me, or when she decided to do this or that, and, mother, father, whoever, caregiver, starting from that to now, when I'm able to bury the grudges, then there is space for the Shraddha to spontaneously arise, and one becomes what is called Shraddhavan. This is what it is. To dare to regain the trust. And so in order to regain that trusting temperament, which is one's own nature, one has to bury the grievances, make peace with the grievances of the past, number one. Number two, the trust has to be directed towards the infallible. And this is, number two. And you trust that which is infallible because it cannot disappoint. Bhagavan cannot disappoint, because even if the answer to the prayer is a big N-O, no, a big fat no, and when you see it from the light of karma, okay, maybe I'll interpret or not yet, but that's okay, I'll work forward again, So like this. So number two is that I learn to trust and discover that trust by making the infallible the recipient of this trust. Very important. And then number three, that prepares the antakaranam, the mind, for the knowledge, because that trust is in Bhagavan for what? To give me happiness, correct? To take away all this distrust, mistrust, fears, pain, sorrows, all these things, and replace it with that lasting shanti, that lasting happiness, and that lasting freedom from, all kinds of conflict and fears. So that is what I want. And so for that, I need the knowledge. And back to Mahapurusha, back to Guru, back to Parampara, back to knowledge. So this is how it's more of a U-turn and a walk back, this whole cultivation of Shraddha. So the third, point in this cultivation of Shraddha is the ability to direct that trust towards the Guru, towards the Pramana. And that can only happen when one is able to put aside the painful experiences of the past, because otherwise the painful experiences of the past are happily and continuously projected out of the Guru. Yeah. And that's why we have Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva. We revere the Guru as, you are my mother, you alone are the mother, you alone are the father. Because here is where the buck stops, So all the pains of the mother and the father, I see that this is part of my karma. And so I have a functional relationship, because one is really reparented if one allows. If one allows, one can be reparented by the Guru, and that is as much part of the learning as the learning with the help of the Upanishads and the texts. But one has to allow. You have to allow yourself to be reparented, and you have to be available for that. And for that, number one is very important. You have to keep going back to number one, like that snake and ladder game. No matter how high you go, at 99 there is a big snake, and that leads you back to square one. That's how that expression came, back to square one. You have to come back to that, because if something is not happening, then check with number one. Check with number one, is it happening or not? Hello. So, so this is what Shraddhavan means. How one grows into this Shraddha is a trajectory, it's a journey. And it need not be a painful journey, it's an enjoyable journey if one is ready. And how is one ready? One is ready because one is sick of life, simple. One is sick of being a distrustful person, simple. One wants to trust, but one doesn't know how. So this is what it entails. And so as the Shraddha gets more distilled and evolved, it is turned towards the infallible in the form of the pramana, the means of knowledge wielded by the Guru. Means of knowledge means the words of the Shastra, wielded and handled by the teacher. That is where the Shraddha is directed towards. The Shraddha is not directed towards the person of the Guru, because that's again a setup. That's a setup. And, that's a lesson we have to learn. You have to transcend the personality of the Guru and see the Purusha in the Guru, just as you are waiting to see the Purusha in yourself. That is the thing. Because that Mahapurusha is you. That Purusha, Sarvan Purayati, that which fills up everything, that which is everything is you. And because one is not able to see it in oneself yet, one sees it in the teacher. It's a temporary thing. If it's a permanent thing, then it becomes a cult. That's the difference between cult and parampara. Guru parampara means you are there to see that which you see in the Guru in yourself. That's the whole thing. So you transcend the personality and see that. You have to be able to cultivate that courage. Because if you look at the personality of the Guru, then the Guru becomes the most fallible person on the earth. The Guru has their foibles, and all it takes is, all it takes for the Shraddha to vanish out of the window, jump out of the window and commit suicide is, for the Guru to just be picking the teeth of the lunch, go like that. Enough. What can this, this uncouth person teach me? But we have the example of Raikva in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Janashruti, a king who had, endless wealth, was dissatisfied with himself. He was a mumukshu. He finally understood what this was all about. He was so sad, so dissatisfied. And he just said, catch hold of a guru and bring him to me. I want to study. Because he was still under that ahankara of that, thinking that the knowledge can be purchased. Bring a guru, It's like, the Greek king. This is actually a real story. Greek king, I forgot who it was. It was in the reign of Bimbisara, this one, Ashoka's lineage, Ashoka's son or grandson, I forget who it was. So they were doing a lot of trade and they were very friendly with the Greeks. And even now, if you go to Greece, they have a lot of respect for India and Indians. They remember these ties, very, very close ties that were enjoyed in ancient times. And so that Greek king, I forget his name, said to King Bimbisara, King Bimbisara said, what can I send you? There is a ship going. So he said, send one elephant, because we don't have that in Greece. Send one elephant. Send one banana tree, because we don't have that. And now all the banana trees in Greece, they will be the first one to say that king, I forgot the name, the Greek king got it from India. send banana trees, send elephant, and send one guru. One holy man. Send him in the ship. So then King Bimbisara said, elephant is we regard as a vehicle of goddess Lakshmi, and no one in India in the right mind will part with goddess Lakshmi. And what to talk of sending such a big animal on a ship? You need another ship to feed it, because it'll eat, several tons a day. This is, long back. And then, banana tree I will send, no problem. And holy man again is not to be plucked and sent. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. So Janashruti said, catch hold of a guru and bring. Who is the best guru? And somebody said, whoever was caught hold of and came to the palace refused to teach him, because they came because they had no choice. It was an offer they could not refuse. And so they came all right, but they refused to teach him. They said, we don't know. Raikwa knows. What's this Raikwa? He's in the forest. Catch him and bring him. He won't come. He won't come. You have to go. So he goes. And he goes and finds this uncouth, skin-diseased guru living under a broken down chariot. And as he's talking, he's, examining his psoriasis and scratching all the time till blood is coming out. This is all described in the Upanishad. I'm not trying to, be macabre here. Yeah, he's scratching, and and Janashruti is distracted by this because he's asking a question and the guru is scratching himself, very uncouth. But we have to give Janashruti's Shraddha a kind of an applause that it deserves, because he was able to see beyond that. And then he said, I have brought 9 elephants full of all kinds of things for you to take in return for this teaching. And he says, he sent back all the carts and the chariots and the elephants, because I don't want any of those things. You can't buy me with those things. And so, so that is Shraddha, where Janashruti learns, albeit a little hard way, and that, to focus on the predicament, the physical predicament and the physical, whatever, the qualities of the teacher is not doing you a service. It's not. It's fun to react, because the physical one attributes are there for interaction. And it's fun because, that's where the jokes are. We remember Pujya Swamiji and all his jokes. That's where the love is. That's where all the interactions are. And that's where we feel, all these ability to relate. You relate through names and forms. And here we have the, challenge to relate, to use the form, to relate, to understand oneself as the formless. That is what the challenge is. And that's where Shraddha plays a big role, because you overlook that the things that continue to, that trigger the memory of disappointment. The guru cannot disappoint because the guru is really a stranger, But what disappoints is the familiar notion in the head that this one too will disappoint. The familiar notion that this person reminds me of mother, this person reminds me of father, this person reminds me of this. How can they do this? This person already did this to me, and that this person is a convenient. The guru becomes a sitting duck of all transferences, and then as a result of that, if one is not able to process that transference and the distrust that causes it, one sits with that transference, and then there is a new problem here. One sits, and I should use the word festers in that transference. Why do we put ourselves through this? Shraddhavan labhate jnana. So Shraddha is there. Okay. Is that all that is necessary? Yes. And no. Why no? Because in this verse, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam, there are 2 other words following right behind the word Shraddha. Tatparaha. Tatparaha is what we already alluded to as the one of committed pursuit. Tat eva paraha yasya tat paraha. Tat means that. Whenever you use the word that in Vedanta, what does that mean? Huh? Brahman, Bhagavan. That is what that it is. It's called that because supposedly it feels away from oneself and one feels alienated. And so, Tat Paraha, that Brahman is the ultimate goal for whom? That shows not only trust, but the trust must be accompanied by commitment, and a commitment to pursue this regardless of where the trust is. That those become the two wheels of this cart, of this journey to this knowledge, so to speak. So it has no commitment or very little commitment. Then what happens? You adore the Guru. Ah, wonderful. All I need to do is sit in front of you. How long you'll sit? Even if you don't get bored, Guru will get bored. Yeah, how long are you going to sit? It's not very different from this Christian concept of beatitude. After death you go and you sit in front of Bhagavan. Bhagavan will say, Jao, do something, please. Enough. Get up. Enough. How long? Because you can't just, with this human mind, you can't be in complete bliss with a capital B all the time. You are sitting in front of Guru all the time. Guru also has work to do and you can't just be sitting and gaping like that, gazing at the Guru all the time, because after a while, after all, the mind wanders, and then you look and see who else is here. Oh, how did this person come to the Guru? Mahapurusha Saṃśayātma took place in this person. I know this person. This person is an idiot. They don't deserve Vedanta. They don't have A for Adhikaritva. They don't have even the ABC for what is Vedanta. How did they come here? And then, then next time you look at the Guru, then you see the Guru looking at them. Oh, no. This is terrible. Not only are they looking at the Guru is also looking at them. And then what happens? The commitment, Shraddha, both of them fly out the window. And so that's why, this is not just about gazing at the Guru, G-A-G, which spells gag. Yeah, that's what it is. It's not gazing at Guru, because after a while you get sick of it. Yeah, and that, that gazing is not going to, is not going to bring the knowledge. From gazing, one has to evolve to grazing in the fields of the Upanishad, and one has to be able to, nibble at the grasses, which is what the Guru stands for. That is what it is. From gazing, you go to grazing. You graze into that, it is. That is how one learns to, that one learns what is called Tatparata, the status of being Tatpara, that commitment. So the commitment is not to the physical form of the Guru. The form of the Guru is kept up because we need the form, because through the form the knowledge comes and the pramana is active and alive. But that's all the purpose of the form. The form is a medium. Yeah. The microphone is what is the instrument for the sound. You can't keep hugging and kissing the microphone. You make sure it's well oiled and it's in working order. Enough. That's enough. But you look upon it as an instrument. That is Tatparata, because the commitment is not to the physical persona of the Guru. Commitment is to the pramana that the Guru carries. So that is Tatparata. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparaha. So if you have Shraddha without Tatparata, then you just become a gazer, not a grazer. To be able to take in this. And then, is that enough? Say no, so we can move on. Yeah. So, because there's one more word. Tatparaha samyatendriyaha. Samyatendriyaha. So the indriyas, what is the meaning of the word indriyas? Sense organs, organs of action, both. When it's not specified. Saṃyata, sammata. Samyata means the one's for whom they have mastery over the sense organs. So readiness is there, but the sense organs are grazing in the fields of the finite. Then it's very difficult for that readiness to do that. And sometimes, that commitment is there. Tatparata means commitment, readiness. But there is no Shraddha. So the person becomes an academic. How many times does the word Purusha come in the Purusha Suktam? Who cares? You understand the meaning of the word Purusha in the Purusha Suktam? No, but I want to count. So one, becomes, these are the people who write concordances. Concordance to Bhagavad Gita, concordance to Panini, concordance to Upanishads. Useful they are, but useless is their lives, really, because that's all they were interested in. Couldn't go beyond. You become a statistic, you become a statistician of the Upanishad. How many times, these gurus have come in the Upanishad? How many times the word Yagyavalkya occurs in all the Upanishads? Is it the same Yagyavalkya? No, it cannot be, because the Rig Veda Yagyavalkya must have been different from the Yajurvedic Yagyavalkya, because the Rig Veda was written before. This is all just nonsense. This is what, when there is Tatparata, when that commitment is there, the person is totally committed to the Upanishad. But that commitment is useless because there is no Shraddha, there is no trust, pending the understanding that this can give me something that I cannot get in any other way. That is Shraddha. That this disappointment that I have been having, being doled out all my life, that has to change, and this is how it's going to come, and this is the way. That is Shraddha. Through knowledge alone is this fulfillment, not through action, because action just reproduces the finite infinitely. Because what we are talking of is uncovering the nature of oneself, not just getting into this whole action-reaction loop again. So if my nature alone is already trusting, free and happy, I have to discover it, for which I need knowledge. That's how the ajnanam is banished. This is, Shraddha. And for that I have to be ready to have a committed pursuit, where I don't just keep dropping off and on, and I don't let anything come in the way. And for the committed pursuits, all the other pursuits of the sense organs are reined in, Saṃśayātma. So then that person in the next line says, Jnanam labdva param shantim labhate na atra samshayah. There is no doubt that if these three things are present, what are they? Shraddha, tatparatvam or tatparata, and then mastery over the sense organs, commitment and Shraddha. If these three things in the reverse order are present, starting with Shraddha, then the knowledge is there, and the knowledge, is gained na chirena, not too long hence, when these preparations are there and the person enjoys this knowledge. This is the on the one hand scenario. Yeah. And of course, there is a jaded jiva, an inner jaded jiva that says, what if I don't do this? Then what will happen? What will happen if I don't do this? Like a daredevil jiva who says, why only I have to listen to all this? What if I don't do this? Let's say Shraddha, cancel, cross. Tatparata, what's that? Cross. And then what's the other one? Mastery over the sense organs and willingness to let go of things that don't belong. Cross. What if I don't do all of this? Agnyascha, ashraddhadhanascha, Saṃśayātma, Vinaśyati. That is where I found this nice expression, Saṃśayātma Vinaśyati. Before that, there are two words, Agnyascha, ashraddhadhanascha, Saṃśayātma Vinaśyati. Nāyam loko asti na paraha, na sukham saṃśayātmanah. Second last verse of the fourth chapter. So, let's unpack this. So, what is on the other hand? What is the choice that is gazing at you if you reject this choice that we have taken so long to unfold? Yeah. So, what is that which is facing you? So here is the situation. On the other hand, here is a person. Who is this person? First qualification of the person is Ajnaha. Yeah. Which Adi Shankara in the Bhashya translates very nicely as Anatmagyaha eva Ajnaha. Anatmagyaha. Janati iti Gyaha. The one who knows is called Gyaha for short. Like Sarvam Janati, the one who knows all is what? Sarvajna, all knowing. Ghatam Janati, the one who knows pot, Ghatagyaha. Na Janati, doesn't know, Agyaha. So we would, from the point of view of the Sanskrit language, we would unfold or unpack the word Agyaha as Na Janati, the one who doesn't know. But Adi Shankara takes it a step further and he says, he knows, but he knows only Anatma. Anatmanam kevalam janati iti anatmagyaha, one word. Or Atmanam na janati anatmagyaha. So you can take it two ways. Very clever translation by Adi Shankara. He says the one who is Ajna should be taken as Anatmagya. Anatmagya can be broken in two ways. Anatmanam janati, the one who knows only Anatma. What is only Anatma? All finite things. He's very knowledgeable in the finite, but doesn't know the infinite. One way of looking at it. Or Atmanam na janati, the one who doesn't know Atma, Anatmagya. So Agya means the one who is ignorant of oneself is Agya. Simply put. So that is our qualification to come to this knowledge. No problem. So if you are Ajna, correct? No problem. You are in fine company because everyone is born Ajna. So no problem. But then, along with the next word, Ashraddhadhanaha means Ajna, all right. And then on top of that, no Shraddha. Deadly combination. Agya, but without trust. An untrusting, a distrustful, mistrustful person who doesn't have Shraddha in the knowledge and a person who doesn't have the knowledge. Very bad combination, says Bhagavan. Agyascha ashraddhadhanascha. Because what happens is, if you're just simply an Agya, you can have some, there is hope. Because you can develop the Shraddha and then you can go forward in the teaching, etc., etc. So you are Ajna, but you are also what? Ashraddhadhanaha, Purushaha. So one is Ajna, all right, no problem there, but then one is refusing to trust. And then what happens as a result? That person gains a new epithet, Saṃśayātma. Atma here is Antahkarana, the whole mind is full of doubt. Doubt comes from the combination of distrust and not knowing the truth of oneself. So this deadly combination leads to a permanent doubting state. Yeah. Guru, who is Guru? Why should I go there? Why should I trust Guru? Why should I trust Upanishad? Why can't I read the Upanishad by myself? And then, okay, read. Yeah, but what is there? Nothing. I've read it. Nothing is there. One person came to Pujya Swamiji and said, Swamiji, I have read, and he interrupted. Swamiji was talking to somebody else. I think it was me actually. Yeah. So he was, that's why I remember this. Yeah. Because it was in those days, we were we always cherished every moment. And so in the beginning, if somebody else came and talked, who is this person? Why? Yeah, so he was talking to me, he was giving me some instruction. This person comes out of nowhere and tugs on him literally and says, Swamiji, I have studied Keno Upanishad. I have studied Kathopanishad. Swamiji said, okay. I have studied this, I've read that. And he rattled off all these quaint and, works of Vedanta, which he was acquainted with. And, what should I do now? And Swamiji turned towards me and said, what should he do now? Swamiji turned to him and said, go get a job. And then, he was very flummoxed. He was like, what do you mean, get a job? I'm enlightened. That's what I've been trying to tell you. He came and said, so therefore I'm enlightened and therefore I've studied all this by myself. Go get a job, he said. And then as he was leaving, Swamiji said, he suffers, alas, he suffers from enlightenment ahankara, meaning the ego of, thinking that one is enlightened. And he said it in such a way that if he was ready to hear it, he could hear it. Otherwise, it would just be like something in the wind. But he heard it. He turned around. What do you mean by enlightenment ahankara? Enlightenment ahankara. He said, what you have is that. So it's like that. It's not, that is what is ashraddha. Ashraddha means, why do I have to take anybody's help to know this? Why should I be tatpara? Why should it be a committed thing? And why should the knowledge be gained only in this way? Why can't I just have a fulfilling experience and that experience can just come like a thunderbolt and then literally hit me? Remember the apple cider, apple juice bottle? Yeah. Literally hit me and then, yeah. It was in Eugene only, long ago, when I first came. This is what, when we were teaching those Gita classes, what I was teaching, yeah. So it was I was wondering where it was. It was here only. And so, this is what the whole thing is. Like, why should I do this? Why do I need help? Already that Ashraddha is speaking through the Ahankara. And so the person becomes a quintessential doubter. So the moment Guru opens the mouth, you start taking notes, critique of the Guru. Why did they say this? Because you're not allowed to ask in the class. The class questions are always at the end, and you can't wait till the end. So the person starts taking notes right in the beginning. Why this? Why that? Why that? And the Bhagavad Gita says, Saṃśayātma, what happens to such a person? Vinaśyati. The whole person is destroyed because that mind, which can be the source of freedom, is destroyed. Mind is destroyed by doubt like nothing else in this universe. If you want to destroy the mind, doubt is enough. It's more powerful than drugs or alcohol. Really. It's the same effect. It leaves one deadened and not alive, not hopeful, nothing to live for, because one will not allow the knowledge that one can gain all these things. One can be fortunate enough to have a human body, fortunate enough to have a mind that knows something is wrong, and fortunate enough to even come to the Guru. Even the Guru's presence is there, but the knowledge does not take place primarily because one does not let it in. Because the ahankara is a brittle, hardened ahankara where that distrust is not dropped. So the person becomes a quintessential doubter. Saṃśayātma, Vinaśyati, Yeah. Vinaśyati means what? Yeah, Vinaśyas. Yeah. So it becomes Vinasha. Vinasha means it is destroyed without a trace, because so what? If you're able to make inferences, so what? Tatah kim. Gurorangri padme nachet lagnam. So if one is not able to surrender to the feet of the Guru, tatah kim, so what? You may have the whole wealth, you may command wealth of the universe, tatah kim, so what? You may have, the whole, all the, the facts of so many things, branches of knowledge, aparavidya, tatah kim. You may have a good spouse and a wonderful family, tatah kim, so what? Still you're not able to be happy because all this gets destroyed. Forget Vedanta, forget your spiritual growth. Even in the material world, you cannot enjoy the persons that you are with. This is what. So na ayam loko asti. Na paraha. Forget paraha means you can take it in two ways. Either Brahman or some understanding of afterlife. You can forget about all of that. Forget the after what comes. Even in this life, even in the material world, Laukika world, you cannot have happiness. this, because that is what the person is. Any phone call that comes, who called? Who phoned? Why are they phoning? Why are they calling you? What's this? And what's happening? And you just make the person sick, because one is so worried and insecure about oneself that one doesn't leave the other person in peace. One leaves oneself and the other person in pieces. This is what happens. Saṃśayātma, Vinaśyati, and the other person also Vinaśyati. One good thing is both Vinaśyati at the same time. Who called? What is this? Oh, it was just an advertisement. Why did they call you? This is how the whole thing is. You have to be able to trust. You have to be able to trust. In order to develop Shraddha for the knowledge, start at home. Trusting the significant other, trusting the children. Children will die, of course. As they grow up into teenagehood, they will tell untruths. It's normal. But you have to give them the benefit of trust, and you have to say that I'm trusting you, and this is what I'm doing. So they are entrusted with that responsibility. So like this, one has to, learn to manage the doubt in the household and in the workplace before one can manage the doubt at the level of teacher and teachings. So if one is unable to have that Shraddha, forget, the teaching is destroyed, forget the teachings, that is not at all available to such a person, but even the regular life is miserable. They themselves are miserable and make others miserable because of their, doubting issues. Doubting issues is equal to control issues, unfortunately. So then, that their own insecurity and their own samshaya, doubt, makes them, worried and very, very rigid about everything. So the household and the workplace is a training ground. It's a kshetra to develop the Shraddha in the Guru and in the knowledge that can lead one to this jnanam and param shanti. Because jnanam labdhva param shanti. Two kinds of shanti are discussed in the Upanishad. First one is what? Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi, which we chanted in the beginning of the class. Why? So that at least for the time being of the class, let there be some relative absence of distress and obstacles. Correct? So that Shanti comes and goes. Correct? And then even after chanting, sometimes there is disruptions. So then we are not talking of that Shanti. Here, Param Shanti. Param Shanti means where Dukkhena Gurunapi na vichalyate, where the person is not shaken even by the greatest of sorrows. That, the one who knows that I am not afflicted, the one who knows the one who is enjoying Param Shanti. So here, that was what is the product or the blessing of the knowledge. And then if that Shraddha is not there, na ayam lokaha asti, na paraha, na sukham, not a moment of happiness. Ashantasya kuthas sukham, somewhere else it is. Second chapter says, Ashantasya kuthas sukham, so the one who is restless and a doubter, that is the happiness. So the doubting person is a miserable person. So where is the happiness? Even the relative happiness of seeing their household grow is not available to such a person. What to talk of the Param Shanti, Para Shanti, it's not there. And na sukham, na shantim, na sukham, what Saṃśayātma, for this antakarana that is riddled with doubt, none of those remain. So, what is, if you had to sum up this whole talk in one phrase, what would you say? Doubt is out. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Very, very nice. Wonderful. So, any questions? There are some questions. However, ancient Greek women could not leave the house without male company, had to wear veils in public, could not own property. In Rome, they could own property. Yeah, that's okay. We are not talking of that. We're talking more of, how I was just relating how this man wanted a holy man to come. Had the holy man been shipped to Greece, these things would not have been there. Yeah. So, do I recall a moment when I realized this thinking for yourself, or was it some flash, or just some realization of one's own reliance on group think and acceptance being inadequate? Um, well, you know, I think I know what you're trying to ask. I mean, how does one know that? How does one come across this inadequacy or this ashraddha, all these things in one's life? I mean, does it come because one is around other people that feel inadequate, or does it come by oneself? I think, it comes, the other people are an impetus to already look into what is already in oneself, really. So, it comes, and, the discontentment is the first to come. Yeah. Shanti comes later. First comes discontent.
Maybe that's only that transference is directed to oneself.
What?
The mistrust in father.
Yeah, the mistrust is basically.
It's like transferred onto one's own self.
How is the mistrust transferred to oneself? I'm not following.
Because you don't trust yourself.
Yeah, you don't trust yourself, and then you don't trust others as a result. So there's no trust in yourself, and there's no trust in others. And which came first? It's like chicken and egg. Did I stop trusting myself because I don't trust others, or did I stop trusting others because I don't trust myself? It's all connect, because the self is the other. There is no other.
Yeah. That is one very troubles in the past. They keep rising.
Yeah, they won't rise from the grave. Not from now. They will go. Yeah. You just tell them that they are dead and they have no power over you, and make sure the headstone is, firmly nailed and put, and then you just you have to give a kind of a final closure and offering. Just say, I accept this. That's what causes it to die. You say, okay, this is how it was, and you have no power over me now. This is what it is. So you put it to rest.
When there is discontentment, it spurs you into action.
Discontentment spurs you into action. Very correct.
So there is a value to the discontentment.
Ayyo Rama. So, now I'm in hot water. So, how will I get myself out of this situation? Let's see. Discontentment spurs you into action, and it is a good thing if it brings you to Vedanta, because that's the last front coming and physically dragging yourself to class. That is the last frontier of action. That's all the action is. After that, what? You just learn, correct? So then it's that way, it's a very good thing. But if the discontentment becomes a micro brew, in the sense that it is keeping on making you fester in it, that's not a good thing. Yeah. So it takes a lot of punya to direct the discontentment to the correct door. Yeah. If there is no discontentment, there is no desire for knowledge. So that discontentment makes one aware that there is something missing and something wrong. But then I have to exercise the proper viveka and the proper discrimination and the proper judgment to see where there is the resting place for this discontentment, not by further action. I got myself out of it. What else? Any other questions? Now, after today, you will not be tortured by discontentment. Yeah, it will go now. Yeah, the Vedas were not written by deluded jivas. They were just channeled, and that's where the trust you have to dare to trust that. You have to dare to trust that the Veda cares about one to give, not to mislead and to give this. Struggle will go. You just pray. You just pray and put little gravestones on all the discontentment from the past. It will go. Yeah, it will go. I want to conclude with chanting the Tataki. We haven't done that in a long time. So, you can just listen, and if you have the book, you can chant. Which page is it here? This chant is very good. It will help to underscore what all has been talked about today. Can somebody tell me page number?
No, sorry.
96. Page 96 in this book. Yeah. Ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Shariram surupam yatha vakadam yashasharuchitram dhanam meruturyam Urorangripadme manaschena lagnam tadakim tadastram dhanam pautradi sarvam griham bandhava sarvametadhijatam Urorangripadme Shena lagnam tadakim Shadangadive Mukhe Shastra Vidya Kavitpadigadyam Supadyam Haroti Gurorangripadme Manashena lagnam Tadakim Videsheshu manyasvareseshu dhanyah Sadachara vritteshu mato na janyah Gurorangripadme manashena lagnam Tadakim Kshamamandale Bhupala Vrindaihi Sada Sevitam Yasya Padarabindam Gurorangripadme Manaschena Lagnam Tadakim Yasho me gatam dikshu dana pratapat Jagadvastu sarvam kare yat prasadat Gurorangripadme manashena lagnam Tadakim Na bhoge na yoge na babajirajau na kanta mukhe naiva vitteshu chittam Gurorangripadme manashena lagnam Tadakim Aranyena vasvasya gehena karye na dehe mano vartate me tvanarye Gurorangripadme manashena lagnam Tadakim Anarghyani
ज्ञानानि मुक्तानि सम्यक् समालिङ्गिता कामिनी यामिनीषु गुरोरङ्घ्रिपद्मे मनश्चेन लग्नम् तथा किं तथा किं तथा किं तथा किं गुरोरष्टकं यः पुण्यदेही यदेर्भूपतिर्ब्रह्मचारी च गेही लभे त्वाञ्छितार्थं पदं ब्रह्म संज्ञा गुरोरुक्त one more time गुरोरुक्त वाक्ये यस्य लग्नम्. Very nice. See, this is why we love Eugene, because we can get back to something that was taught 10 years ago and then it's still alive. Awesome. Yeah. 10 years ago, this was taught. Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Very nice. Give yourselves a big hand. Huh? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Shanti Shanti Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Dakshinamurti has grown in beauty and baby Ganesha in size. Very nice. Yeah, this is a song to make the inner baby trust again. Now, please listen to this. It is called Gurvashtakam. You can download it from internet. Okay? Yeah. Gurvashtakam, 8 verses in praise of the Guru and in terms of trust. So yeah, happy chanting. Okay? See you all tomorrow for what? Bodhasara. Very nice. Yeah, they're also bhakti and everything. We are at a nice place in Bodhasara. Now we unfortunately move on to that part of the online which cannot be shared, which is called P for Prasadam. Yeah, and when we are fully into Dwapara Yuga, there will be way of teleporting all these things, but right now it's not there. Okay, so show them the prasadam so that they can enjoy. Yeah, show them. Okay. Yeah, that cake looks very nice. Oh, really? Oh, that's wonderful. Very nice. Yeah, a fashionably a Mediterranean dinner. I'm told I went over time. So, but nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. No complaint. Yeah.
No, overtime you get paid extra.
Hello.
Pardon me?
Namaste.
Credit. Overtime credit. Yes. Come
Wow,
here.
you guys
Come here. Come here.
We will see you all tomorrow morning.
Oh my God. How are you? What's happening? How is your health? Where have you been?
I've asked myself.